Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello and welcome to the Richness of Our Lives podcast. I'm your host, Mary Scott, and today we are travelling down to the central coast of New South Wales in Australia, just so you know, because we do pop around the world. Today, my guest, I just told her that she impresses me, but she also inspires me. Now, this woman is so talented. She's multi-talented. Kristine Best is a wellness visionary. She's a musician. She's a lyricist. Do you know what? The list goes on and on and on. She has diplomas. She has masters of NLP. She is just an amazing woman. Kristine, welcome to the Richness of Our Lives. Great to have you here today.
I'm really excited to be here, and it's an honor to be here. And I love your podcast. I've listened to several, and they're just really well run and fantastic people that you interview on them. So thank you very much for having me here.
Well, you've just joined the line of fantastic people, Kristine. And, you know, your journey started a long time ago. That's no reference to age, by the way. It's just when you were 7, you looked a bit different to this. So something happened when you were 7. Why don't you tell the audience about that?
Yeah, well, I think I was a challenging baby and child, and I think I must have asked lots of questions, and, you know, I didn't sleep a lot when I was a baby. I was like too busy taking in all my surroundings. And I've always been like that I love to learn things. I love to discover things. I love to ask questions. If I don't understand, why is that? And I think I asked too many whys one day, and my parents decided to get me a set of children's encyclopedias. And I read them from cover to cover. I think there were 10 volumes. I can't remember exactly now, but I can see the page that inspired me. And it was about human blood. I can see the page in my mind. It had that much impact. And that's a long time ago. And I remember some of the pages in those encyclopedias visually, like I could just see them. And this thing about the blood was that there were white blood cells or white cells and red cells, and that they traveled through your bloodstream, and they had different roles in the body. And that blew me away at 7. That your blood was made up of iron and stuff like that. And I'm going, wow, this is amazing. And that set off, well, I guess you would call it the first pillar of my wellness journey, because there were several.
That is brilliant. And where did that take you? That I love your curiosity. Just in that moment, I was like, yeah, here's a curious woman.
Yeah, I was. I guess I was always curious about stuff. And I think I must have asked questions my parents couldn't answer. So that led me to, at the age of 10, and this is another odd moment, because I was just at the dining table waiting for my mother to come inside for some reason. And I think I was waiting for her to give me a job, like a chore. And so I was at the table flipping through her magazine, and I'm going, there's nothing in here that will interest me. And all of a sudden, bang, there's this page, and it just took all of my attention. I ripped the pages out of that magazine and I took them to my room, because I think Mum had finished reading it, and it was a bit naughty anyway, but yeah, I had these pages. I had these pages. I was so excited about these 2 pages. And it was the title was Breathing. And it was, it explained, because I started to read it, and it explained what you need to do to get rid of asthma and breathing problems. And I followed this recipe that was in that magazine, and over weeks or months, I got rid of my asthma. I've never had it back.
Wow, at age 10.
Yeah, at age 10.
That is absolutely brilliant.
And so what that told me at that age was that if you do the right thing, your body will heal itself, or you can heal yourself if you do the right thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's within your power to do that. And so I didn't think twice about it. You can fix yourself. You can get fixed if you do the right thing for your body.
Absolutely. It would have just seemed like a fundamental. Well, that's how it works. That's what we do. And this is how I should move forward.
And it worked for me. So, that was how it was. And so at 13, I got really interested in posture, because part of the asthma thing was not just breathing, but posture and various exercises. And at 13, I became really interested in posture and balancing my body. And I realized, because at 13, I was in high school and I walked roughly 3 kilometers to school. And I mean, I could have caught the bus, but I wanted to walk. So, and I walked through the park, and I loved that. But it was a Globite bag. And if you don't know what a Globite bag is, you've got to look it up on Google, because I'm sure Google's got pictures of Globite school bags. And it's this case, and you carried it with one hand. You didn't sling it over your shoulder like, just over both shoulders so that the weight is evenly distributed. You had to carry it on one side. And after a little while, I'm thinking, that's no good for me. So I'd swap hands and I'd count a number of like 20 or 30 steps, and I'd do the exact same on the other side. Don't ask me why I did this at 13, but that's just how I was. That's what I did. And I found that worked, and I found that 20 was better than 30, because by 30, I'm thinking this is heavy, but 20 was good. So I'd count 20 steps all the way to school. So I didn't injure myself. But I used to look at kids and I'd go, they're like that because of carrying their bag in one hand, because you've got a dominant hand.
At 13, I mean, it's phenomenal. It's funny, when you started talking about posture, I was like, am I sitting?
I mentioned the P word. It has that effect. I used to go to dinner with people and they'd say, what do you do for work? And I go, I teach people posture. And everyone would be aware of their posture because they're all
Yes, that's right. And I must admit, doing a lot of this kind of work and 2 screens and everything, and that's why I've got a stand up, sit down desk. But anyway, go on.
Okay, so 13, 14, and through my teens, I became particularly interested in vitamins and minerals, and I started buying health food magazines because that was a big craze at the time. A good craze, mind you, and I was always fairly active, by now, because I didn't have asthma anymore and I was playing all different sports. And so I was really into physical, mental wellness, and and my parent, I had a good childhood, so I had a good home life. As I got older, my mum and I used to butt heads because she was a determined woman, I was a determined woman. And
you were her daughter, right?
Yeah, well, that's right. Chip off the old block or something like that. And the dynamics in families are the same, but your teenagers want to push the borders, and I was one of those. But anyway, I wasn't bad person. I just a bit difficult. So then, let me think. It was probably I was in my 30s. Oh, no, in my 20s, I decided to learn martial arts. And the reason that I did that is because as a teenager, I was raped at knife point. And I thought, nobody is ever going to do that to me again. I'm going to learn martial arts. So I think I was 24. It took me all that time to decide that I'd do that. But I did martial arts for 12 years. And so that's another aspect of my physical fitness. I played as I said, I played all these other sports, but the martial arts was one. I did karate and kickboxing, and I loved it. That's the one that lasted the longest, 12 years. And towards the end of that, I was getting into bodybuilding because I wanted to put on weight for my martial arts because I was pretty light at the time. I was about 8 stone. So I put on a stone of weight, muscle weight. And that bodybuilding period, people in the gym started noticing that I was looking, pretty buff and pretty, a bit muscular, not like a bloke or anything, but, athletic, I would call it. And they said, you know what, you could go in a bodybuilding competition. And I thought, I didn't do this to go into bodybuilding, but hey, that'd be kind of fun. So I went into 3 bodybuilding competitions and I got a 3rd in one of them.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? I don't want to do bodybuilding anymore. I'm happy to do the weight training and all that. But I did some mini triathlons and I did all these things. I used to ride 100 Ks with the St. George Cycle Club and 50 Ks with the Cronulla Triathletes. St. George Cycle Club and Cronulla Triathletes. And so I was really fit then as well. And like all through my life, I've maintained my physical fitness and trying different things. And so I did some of those. I did mini triathlons. I didn't do any full triathlons because I'm not a real long distance person. The longest distance I ever ran was 14 Ks, and I never want to do that again. That was the City to Surf. I did that once.
Oh, what a brilliant,
So
brilliant and fun run. I've done that.
it was fun, and there were all these things that I did, and I just went, well, I've done that now. I don't need to do any more of those. What else can I do? So I've always been like that. And then it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I found a course that I wanted to study because I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't really want to be a naturopath. I didn't want to be all those things. But this one was a sports science course. And that really fit with who I was. And I liked the subjects: anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics, and motor skill learning. And there were aspects of of psychology. There was developmental psychology, and then there was psychosocial or socio-psychological aspects of sport and things like that. So I finished an associate diploma, and then I went on and did the degree in sports science. And during that time I set up my own business, and I ran that from 1980 to roughly 1980 till the year 2000.
And what was your business? What were you doing?
Natural remedies and injury rehabilitation.
Wow. So yes, once again, all of this is just tying back to the body and awareness of your body. And this all started way in those formative years about posture. I love it.
Yeah, so my whole life has followed that wellness thing. Yeah, and then I wanted to pass that on to other people.
And what happened then? Did you start training people?
I suppose you would call it coaching, mentoring, training. I did posture analysis and corrective posture exercises. I had a grid, and I would take photos and analyze people's posture, and I'd give them a report and say, these are the corrective exercises that you need to do, and I'd also find the root cause of why they had postural problems, and I would then tell them, you're doing this thing and that thing, and they're no good for you. We need to stop you doing that, and this is what you've got to do. And I'd write a program for them to eliminate or overcome the habit of these things.
Yep.
And then establish a healthy habit in its place. And it takes about 3 months for people to get to the point where it's almost automatic. So they have to work at it. And in all the time, like, I helped thousands of people in this way. I wrote training programs for them. I employed massage therapists. I did some massage myself on the really tough clients, but I employed people to do a lot of the massage for me, and I went out and did consulting in businesses because most of my clients, I found, got their problem at work. So I went out with a presentation for the business, and then they would get me to fix up workstations, and I do maybe some seminars or workshops or something like that, in addition to going around and correcting workstations. Yeah, because most people got their problems from their work, because you think about it, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's where you spend most of your time, and that's where people get those bad habits.
That's right. And is that where you wrote that book? You wrote about, was it ergonomics or?
Posture and ergonomics for office and desk workers, yeah. And I had in mind at the time that I would write a series of posture and ergonomics books for different industries and different types of jobs. But I didn't get that far, because in the year 2000, I split up with the father of my son, and my son became my priority. So I was the person in the business. I couldn't really sell it. I was the business. And
yes. So what changed then, Kristine?
so what I did, I just worked part-time. I need a drink. I need a drink of water.
I'll go with you at the same time. So cheers.
Just got a bit of a dry throat now from talking.
So when you're ready, just take your time. So you were there, your son was a priority, and things changed. Tell me about that.
So I left Sydney. I left Sydney and went to.
Just keep having a little drink and catching your breath. That's the thing, isn't it? When we
I'm excited and I'm talking too much.
Well, we love your excitement. I love how passionate you are about this.
Yeah, so I left Sydney and moved to the Central Coast of New South Wales, and I lived in East Gosford, and I raised my son there. And so I closed the doors on that business, right? And there were issues with his father, which is why I split up with him. And so it took a few more years to actually get him out of our life.
Yeah.
And it was because I was actually taking my son to meet him halfway, and I didn't have to do that. I did it because I wanted my son to have the two parents, and that didn't kind of work out because his father was stupid. But anyway, he behaved badly, and so I just said, well, I'm not going to take Alex down to see you anymore. You have to come all the way, because the court order said that anyway. And you didn't appreciate what I was actually doing.
Yeah.
So now I'm giving you all the responsibility. And you know what he did? He rang his son one day and said, oh, it's all too hard. Your mother won't let me see you, and blamed me. Right? And I just thought, it's very sad, because that upset my son, of course. And I had to deal with the aftermath of that.
And how old was he then when that you?
9. He was 9 when.
That's a pretty tough one at 9, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite vulnerable and an impressionable age, you know. But I worked with my son, and we had a really good community around us. We were going to a church at the time, and they were wonderful people, and he had plenty of father figures. So do you know his father never ever sent him a birthday card, a Christmas card, nothing from that time on. And I was really happy about that, because I didn't want his influence on my son. So anyway, to cut a long story short, when my son got to an age where he was on his way in life, he had a part-time job, he was still going to school, but, 17, 18, he was trustworthy, and, I showed him how to cook a few things. And one day he came home and said, what's for dinner? I said, I don't know, whatever you're cooking, I'm going out. See ya. And so off I went, and he looked after himself, and I got into music. I joined a ukulele club, and I did that for 2 years. And then I decided I would go off on my own and be a songwriter. And I was 63 at that point. And so I was a late starter. I had learned classical and flamenco at 15, 16. But life happened back then, and I just put my guitar away thinking I'll get it out one day. So I still hadn't got my guitar out. I played ukulele, and I went out and because I'd written a few songs, and I went to open mics thinking that's how looks like it's got to be me, because who else is going to sing my songs? And so I'd started going to 5 and 6 open mics every week.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah, I wasn't very good because I was as nervous as all get out, because I'd never been on stage. Just wasn't part of my experience. And so it was daunting being on stage. It was all right in a group.
Goodness. And to do 5 or 6 a week with that?
Well, I decided I had to do that many to get over my nerves. I was all right in a group, but on my own, it's like, oh my goodness, all these eyes are on me. And I'm like trying to play my ukulele and sing. And it took me a while to, get my confidence. And then I started playing guitar at 64. And I decided I'd go on these different social media platforms, because I thought, I need to find out where these open mics are. I need to connect with people so I can be involved in this music industry that I'm now stepping into, because I knew nothing about it, right? And I had to learn.
Yeah.
And so I got on the social media platforms, and I thought, I want to be on LinkedIn because that's the professional one, and I want to be professional. So I got on LinkedIn, and there was a coach approached me and said, would you like to watch this video? And I thought, what is it? And it was about leadership. And I thought, I did leadership in some of my jobs earlier on in my life, because I worked in government jobs. I worked in private enterprise. I've had lots of different jobs. And I thought, leadership. Well, if I'm going to be a singer, I'm kind of leader. So yes, I'll do that. I'll have a look at that video. Well, then he sent me a couple more. And so I think there were 5 all up. And after I'd watched those, he said, would you like to have a half-hour free coaching session with me? Oh, yeah, free's good. So I had a free coaching session with him. And then we I don't know, he'd set up these groups and said, do you want to come to these leadership groups, this engagement group, and this sales coach, learn about sales and all these things? I'm going, yeah. So I went and did all these courses with him, and I'm thinking, yeah, I like this. And I met another guy who was a sales guy. And those 2 guys I've now teamed up with, and we've set up a charity together. So it's really weird how all these things happen. But anyway, this guy, the coach, he coached me in my dreams, my goals, my values. And I realized I had some limiting beliefs, and I needed to get over those. So we went through limiting beliefs, and I did a Tony Robbins 3-day or 5-day challenge or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was really good, and it was uplifting, and I learned some stuff. And then I thought, I can do this. My wellness business, it came back into the fore right now. And I'm thinking, those goals I had back then, I reckon I can achieve them now if I set up my wellness business again. So that's what I did. And that all came about through Stephen, this coach, who coached me in the beginning, right? And so I started laying, when would that be? November 22, the concept came to me, and I built a basic concept of what I had a vision of. And after I'd done all my dreams and goals and values, which was during this time, I added more goals to what I had previously. It grew because my vision grew, because I realized I think I can do that. I don't know, I just had this vision, and I thought my vision was global wellness through global transformation through wellness in totality.
Oh, lovely.
So it was a big vision, and I thought, why not? Because the statistics show that 70% of all deaths in the world are from chronic disease, such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer, arthritis, gut problems, all those things. They're not contagious diseases. They're ones people just develop from within themselves. And that's usually related to lifestyle. Can be a bit
huge, isn't it? 70%.
70% of all deaths are from that. Now, they're largely preventable, right? Aren't they?
Yeah, well, that's good that you added that, because I was going to say, yes, chronic disease, in some respects, I'm going to throw this out there, is a choice about how you live your life in some respects. So here you are with 70% of the population there, and were they open to receive?
And so what I see with that is that those people with those diseases are a burden on themselves, they're a burden on their family, they're a burden on society.
Correct.
And I don't mean that selfishly, because they didn't realise. So why didn't they realise? It's because they were never taught. Nobody showed them. And the answer is really quite simple, and it's the recipe that I applied in my life. And it worked for me, and it can work for other people. Well, it worked for the people that I saw in my business. And as I said, I helped thousands of people in my business. And there was only ever 2 people out of those thousands. One person used to come in for treatment every week, and he had the money to pay. I knew he could pay, But it wasn't the money that was important to me. It was that he got better. And his attitude was, because I said to him, are you doing those exercises I've been giving you? He goes, no, I come in here and you do it for me. I said, no, it doesn't work like that in my business. I said, you are a bad advertisement for my business. And I don't want you as my client. You have to go find someone else to massage you and give you therapy. So that's how I was. I wanted people to be better. And if they didn't take responsibility for that, they were not going to be my client.
So he moved on.
I sent him away.
Oh, that's so gutsy. I can't imagine that many people have the courage to do that.
I would have loved to have him as my client regularly and paying me money. I mean, that's what I'm in business for. I've got to earn a living. And I wanted a lifestyle, which I was aiming for, but I didn't want that money on the false pretense that I was doing something meaningful for him. Because to me, it wasn't meaningful. From his point of view, it was meaningful because somebody was doing it for him, but that's not what life's about. You've got to take responsibility for yourself. And if you want to be better, you've got to really want to be better, and you've got to put in the effort to do that. And
that's about values, isn't it? You're going back to values, because you
I guess so. Yes.
Money, but the bottom line is here, your values were higher than his.
Well, I guess so. And I don't like to be with people who don't have at least a very good standard of values. Because I don't want to be dragged down. No. I want to be uplifted. So I want to be with people who are as good or better, in fact, mostly better than me, because I want to be better. I want to be as good as I can possibly be. Anyway, and I want these people to be as better than what they are. I want him to get well. And when they don't want that, well, see ya. And there was only one other lady that was really very negative and was so focused on, oh, woe is me, and I've got this problem and I got that problem. And she was really, like, I just felt like I couldn't work with her. I wasn't the right person for her. So I referred her out of my business. But they were the only 2 in all those 20 years. Everybody else wanted to be better because usually they'd been to the doctor, the physio, the chiro, and they weren't actually getting better because no one was treating the root cause. They all wanted to treat the symptoms.
They're still had good stats, Kristine.
Pardon?
They're pretty good stats.
Yes. I helped everybody to some degree or another, even a woman who came in and she didn't know how she got the physical problems, but because I asked lots of questions. I had to fill in a form and shade on a body where the problems were, and she didn't know how she got them, and it didn't matter how many questions I asked her, she didn't know how she got it. And it turned out in the end, because I said to her after the third session, you're not responding like someone who has a problem that originated from a physical injury. You're responding like someone, it's come from a psychological trauma. And she goes, no. But in the end, I said, you come back next week. I want you to go home and think about this. Give it a lot of thought. So she came the next week and said, can I speak to you confidentially? And I'm thinking, we got something here. I said, yeah, but it's always confidential. And she said, I was raped at 13 by my uncle. So she had back, neck and shoulder problems because this thing was in the back of her mind trying to tell her, you've got a problem. And she's going, no, don't. And she said to me, in all my 60, she was 67, she said, in all my 67 years, I have never thought about it. And I said, no, because it was traumatic. But anyway, I gave her a program of this is what you need to do. Because there weren't NLP coaches that were around that I knew of at that time. We're talking about, I don't know, it was probably during the 1990s. And so I didn't know if anything about NLP back then or that. And I thought, I don't really want to send it to a psychologist because I don't know that that's what she needs. She was pretty grounded and I figured she can handle this, Well,
it's a great differentiation that you made there, and what value to bring to someone. It's not injury, it's not this, it's not physical, it's psychological. And it would have been back in the 90s, it would have been, and then you gave a reflection time. I love that. That's just fabulous.
Yeah, so she started getting better then straight away because the problem was coming out. So what I like to think about is when you've got a mental problem or trauma from your childhood or whatever, something you're carrying around on your shoulder, it's in the back of your mind, it's on your mind. It's like a boil and it's pussy and it's got to come out.
Oh, that's so graphic. It's so graphic. That says it all. And, I know that ergonomics and posture have been your thing. It's a very strong modality that's informed you, and occupational health and safety. When did all that happen in your life?
The occupational health and safety came about because I understood biomechanics from the course that I'd done, right? And so if you understand biomechanics and you understand how the muscles and the joints move, because I'd studied anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics, all of that stuff. So I knew how the body worked and what muscles were involved in what actions. And so if you look at how somebody's sitting, standing, lifting, running, jumping, you understand the muscle groups and you understand how they might have got an injury, or in the reverse, how what they're doing will cause an injury.
Yes, yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So that's when I went into business. I actually did an occupational health and safety course, but because I was pretty good with the biomechanics and the movement of the body, it was just easy to put those things together and go into a business and set up a workstation correctly. And I'd bought they were technical documents from the government, And I went through all of them and got all the details and the angles and all of the because it was a lot of physics in there. And I'm thinking, your average Joe Bloggs won't read that. They won't understand that. What can I do? And so I wrote that book, Posture and Ergonomics, for office.
Curiosity. It's lovely. I love it.
Yeah, so I really simplified it that a primary school kid could read my Posture and Ergonomics book, or an adult, didn't matter, but the cartoon characters were there to colour it, make it a bit more fun and interesting. But I wanted that book to be available for whoever needed it. And I figured that they really needed it from school days, to set up the habits for later on in life. I didn't take that book because I wanted to get it into the education department. I wanted them to take my book, and then I wanted to do videos with my cartoon characters, but I never got around to doing that because that was around the time I split up with my son's father. So now I can do these. I will get to these things and develop them.
Oh, you will. And because you've taken us down this path of books, and you've got a couple of books just sitting there at the moment. Would you like to share about those, or is it a bit premature?
No, I can share a little about those. Going back a year and a half or 2 years even, when I was studying leadership and stuff with Stephen, I had the idea that I would like to do or write a children's book about wellness, because I want wellness for everyone. And where does it start best? When you're young. If you learn all the information.
You're living proof of this very thing.
Well, I guess so. Yes. And I want that for every person. And if we can teach children, then we can alleviate the hospital system. We can alleviate this sickness that's in the world that weighs families down and makes people unhappy. We can have a better society, and we can have a hospital system that is ready to take people in who really need the operations. And then you don't have to have the ambulance officers waiting in casualty with somebody they've brought in who just has a chronic problem that could have been avoided. You know what I'm saying is, yes, everything could be so much more efficient and effective. So that was what my vision was, and one of the reasons why I wanted to write a children's book. And then I got very busy because I was also studying this MBA that I decided I wanted to do, although I put that on hold now. I have done enough for a graduate diploma, and I'm thinking, you know what, that might be enough. But I put it on hold because I really wanted to write the book on, it's called The Circle of Connection. The subtitle is Trauma to Wellness. And that book is about, as I mentioned earlier, I was raped at knife point as a teenager. And so I wanted to write not about the event, but the aftermath of the event. And then there was another event later on in my life that I wanted to also include there, because I figure if I can write about those things, that would take in a lot of women and possibly some men who have been in similar situations, because there are men who've been victims of sexual assault, and they've also been in domestic violence. It's not just women. So anyway, I've written this book where I tell my story, and then I I talk about how I felt, what it did to me, my feelings, my emotions, my protective mechanisms that I put in place, all those kinds of things. And then this book will take them through the processes that I used, or techniques, strategies that I used, because I've always been positive. And I went through that period after those events feeling, what's the word? You kind of shut down, you're numb, you're trying to process it all, you're trying to put it into perspective, you're trying to deal with how you feel. And so there's a period of almost like hibernation going through all of that.
Yeah.
But then being a positive person, there are things I wanted to do. And so in the book, I talk about those things. But in the process of doing all that, it occurred to me that I need to do a model. And so I designed this model, and I talk about the various layers in this model. And it helps people to understand who they are, why they're like they are, all the influences on them, and how they interact with people, and finally, how they interact with themselves.
Beautiful.
So this book takes them through all of this stuff. And that's why it's taken me a little bit longer to write, because I wanted it to be more meaningful than just my story, and this is how I felt. and then you can just go to a coach and they'll help you. That wasn't going to serve the purpose. And that's why I designed this model and started to bring all this other stuff in, because I figured that's going to kickstart their healing journey a whole lot better, which is what my purpose was. And throughout the book, I say, you don't have to do this alone. It's not easy to do it on your own. Most people couldn't do it on their own. And you need to have a coach, a counselor, a guide, or a trusted friend, or whatever you feel is necessary. But you need someone else to help you through this, because it's like a labyrinth down there inside, trying to go through this stuff. And some people just can't navigate their way through it, because it's quite complex. There's a whole lot of stuff that humans, like protective things that people have put in place, and walls and all sorts of stuff. And you need someone else to help you break those down. And there are strategies that help people look at their situation from a place of safety. So there are certain strategies. And so I touch on these things in the book.
And you've created a bit of a community around this book. Tell us about that.
I did. I thought I would like to get people involved in what I'm doing. I mean, I set up all the chapters, like I set up the skeleton framework of how I wanted the book. That took me a while to do. What I wanted to talk about. And I'm really happy with that framework. And I've added and changed a few little bits and pieces in it. And I thought, now I wanted to see if those chapter titles are actually what resonate with people. So I invited some people in my circle to come in and join my little club. And I got 7 people, not too many. But I thought that's still going to be okay, because there were a couple of males and a couple of females. And I said, here are 3 chapter titles. So I had my one, and I went to ChatGPT and said, give me a couple of alternatives. So I picked the ones I wanted, and I said, these are 3 options for this chapter, and it is about this. And I did one sentence to say what it was about. And so then they'd vote on it. And I've done that for a couple of chapters. And so what I wanted to do was get a feeling of, am I on the right track, or is there a better title? And so, yeah, it's been really good. It's been really good, because I wanted the book to appeal to people out there, not just me.
That's a great way. That's a great way to, the test and measure way always works, doesn't it? And then you get cooperation going on, and the collaboration of ideas, and that's just fabulous. Tell me, when's the expectation? Is it 2025 that this book will be published?
Yeah, I'm hoping to publish it by the end of October, which means I've got to work particularly hard on to finalise the book. But with that community that I've started, I had the idea that I wanted to so it's not just a book club. It is my book club, I guess. But what I wanted to do was, anybody who was going to be interested in trauma to wellness or connection this book, you'd be interested in this book, like human connection and connection with yourself. So this book is, if you're interested in it, come and join this community. And so, when the book's published, I wanted people to talk about meaningful chapters in it. Why was it meaningful to them? And maybe they could share their story, and that, maybe they've never shared their story with anyone, but maybe this safe environment is a place where they can do that. And so it would be supportive and help people to be, to get on their healing journey and talk about what happened to it. Because half the problem is you've got it all bottled up inside and it can't come out. But if you talk about it, that's this opens up that pussy sore, so the pus starts to come out.
There's the graphic again.
But that's what it's like, isn't it, really?
Absolutely it is. And I know that the number one reason people go to therapy or coaching is they want to be heard. And that's about the opportunity, for expression and connection. And you sound like you are mastering this rather well. So I commend you. I think it's a beautiful approach. And I look forward to seeing it come to fruition. Tell us about the other book you've got brewing there.
Okay. It's kind of a little pet project I had, and I finally bit the bullet and got it out again because I suddenly had the inspiration to do it and the motivation. And it's called Lily and the Well of Wellness. Lily and the Well of Wellness.
Love it.
And it's kind of a magical little story, but it's got a lot of down-to-earth stuff in it. And it's about Lily, and she has a friend named Jamie, and her mum and dad are in the story, and her pet dog and pet cat. They're the main character. They're the characters. And I don't want to tell you the whole story, but
No, don't. Please don't. I love the name, Lily.
Lily. And it's Lily because Lily's a flower and it's natural, and
And when will we see that? Let's not say any more. When will we see?
I'm hoping to finalise that in the next week.
Oh, wow. That's fabulous. So by the time we go to air, it will be out there. That is absolutely amazing. And
so I've done the story. I'm working on the graphics. I had an idea that I was going to get a coach, not a coach, a sketch artist or a cartoonist to do it, and I had a guy in mind, but I'm going to do it myself this time. But next time, because I'm going to do a sequel to Lily and the Well of Wellness, because I feel that kids will like the story, and I think parents will like it too, because it's got some really good messages in it. It's positive. And it's got stuff about community. It's a whole lot of stuff in there. And I just figure there's a whole lot more adventures Lily and Jamie can go on. And I want to engage this cartoonist that I know to do all the graphics in the book.
wow, that's just amazing. And, you've got so many strings to your bow. What really makes your heart sing?
To see someone who has applied the knowledge I've given them and the strategies, and that they're improving their wellness. They can reduce pain, they can lose weight, they can feel better in themselves, and them feeling better in themselves is really the main thing that kicks off everything else. But I help them with their mindset, because it's mindset that is the basis for everything we do.
Absolutely.
So if you want to be well, you have to have the mindset for that, and you have to be able to set goals and achieve goals. So they're things I teach people so that they know, and at the same time, I help to reinforce certain values. So they might have values, but they might be based on mistruths. And so you got to help them understand how they can change what they believed so that they can then achieve the goal, because what they believed is stopping them from doing it. And so that can apply to any aspect of someone's life, whether it's wellness or their job or even just going out and meeting people. Some people just can't do that, but there is something in their past that's caused them to be like that. So we have to change what happened to them into a positive.
Yes, beautifully said. And, once again, there seems to have been quite a theme here today. And the theme is about, what's the word? You're quite a principled person. That might be an old term for some. But you also have lived your life based on very solid values, which I absolutely love. Tell me, what do you think happens with people that have, because I've asked this question, what are your 5 top values? And people go, and I realize that it's not something that's freely available to people.
No.
What do you understand about that? Because then I see people Googling it, what's a value? And I think, what happened in our communication and education about that?
Well, actually, yesterday and the day before, I met somebody who works in this field, and I understand values from what I've done, with Stephen, and I understand about ethics because I studied professional ethics at uni, and I got a high distinction for that. I was really good at that because I understood right and wrong, and I suppose that was the basis my parents gave me because they were good people. And they were quite principled, mostly. Because I've got a story. Anyway, that might go in one of my books. But, values, they were not included in the education system because they just wanted to concentrate on giving the curriculum. They didn't teach values, whereas some cultures do.
Yes.
They are, in fact, in Japan, I've learned, the kids don't learn anything about school or, history and stuff. They learn how to value themselves and they respect themselves and respect their parents and how you behave this way and that way. And they set the behavior code.
That's brilliant.
In the very early years, which I think is great because that's missing in our education system. And it's probably missing in the American one as well. And so you get a breakdown of behaviour.
We've lost our way a bit, haven't we?
In that way, yes, I think so. You can still be you, but you can just be a better version of you and respect yourself and other people and be more tolerant and I guess, because once you segregate people, we're divided. But what we want is unity. We're all human. We're all skin and blood and bone and stuff. The only thing that makes us different is the colour of our skin and where we were raised. So we've got cultural differences, and people separate everybody, and they don't want to include those people because they don't like them or they don't understand them. And so you've got this division. But we need to find something that unites us. We need to find one thing that you like about them to actually unite them and tolerate the other differences, because everybody's entitled to a different opinion. Everyone's entitled to live their life, if they want to run, they can run. If they want to swim, they swim. And if they want to go and sing or dance or play football, they should be able to do that. And we shouldn't judge them because they do that. And it's not what I do. Because that's the minute you start to do that, you're dividing people. We want to unite people. So what can you do to be more inclusive? And it doesn't mean to say you include people who are rude. We try and help those people. or they're ignorant, or they're obnoxious, or they're whatever they are. We don't like that about them, but what can we do to help them? And bring them up to our standard. Maybe they just had a rough trot in life. Maybe they had a bad upbringing. How do you know what they've been through? We shouldn't judge about that. We should do our best to maybe help them. And if you can't, well, that's all right. Just distance yourself from them. You don't have to put them down, and you don't have to be really mean to them. You can still speak to them in a civil manner. You just don't see them all the time. You know what I mean? And you don't have to hang around in their circle.
Well, I like that. I think a long time ago when I did my somatic psychotherapy training, we had a wonderful therapist from the US, and she used to say, your job is to appeal to the best in you, to the best in your client. And that's what you're saying, that we just have to find one thing, and we might end it here, that I can see and you can see in me that we know, oh, I really like that about Kristine, or I like that about that person, because that will bring us together. It certainly won't divide us. Is that your feeling?
So the thing is, what kind of person are you? Do you look for all the things that aren't right in that person? Or do you look for something good in that person? Because if you're looking for the things that aren't right in that person, you point the finger at that person, there are three fingers pointing back at you, right? So you better start looking at yourself first before you judge that person, because we've all got something that we need to work on in our life, and we're all at different stages in our learning. And some people don't have the opportunities that you might have had to learn what you know, and we've got to give people the opportunity to grow.
And that's a good seed, isn't it? The good in you and the good in me, and that'll bring us together. I love that.
Well, none of us are perfect. None of us.
Well, no, that's an absolute.
That's an absolute.
You are one awesome woman. You bring so much richness to the richness of everyone's lives, and certainly to this podcast today. It's funny, I said to you when I spoke to you earlier, I've learned some things about you, and once again, I've learned some more about you, and you live your life highly on values, and you do, certainly in my experience of you, is you do appeal to the good in others, and you show your best side with great positivity. And I wish you so much success with the books. I know there's going to be more, I'm pretty certain. So thank you for giving up your time and being a guest today. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mary. I really enjoyed being here and sharing that part of me. It was really, really enjoyable. Thank you very much. And I hope your viewers get something positive from what we talked about today.
I'm sure they will, and you'll be probably hearing about it. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much for having me on your wonderful podcast, Mary.
This week's episode has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.